Hi everyone, welcome back to Diwan-e-Ghalib Meri Zubani. Today we are going to start getting into his ghazals from Diwan-e-Ghalib one by one. Hopefully you accessed the introductory episode that I recorded some time back and enjoyed listening to the inspiration and motivation behind this podcast. So without much ado, let's get into the first ghazal from Diwan-e-Ghalib. I'm going to read the ghazal once and then we can get into the impressions verse by verse. So मतला अर्ज किया है, नक्श फरियादी है किसकी शोखी-ए-tahrir का, काग़जी है pairahan हर paikar-e-taswir का, काव-ए-sakht-जानी hai-tanhaai ना पुचh, subh करना शाम का, lana है जू-ए-shir का, जazbaa-ए-be-ikhtiyaar-e-shauq देखा chahiye, sina-e-shamshir से बाहर है दाम-ए-शमशीर का, आagahi दाम-ए-शनिdan जिस कदर चाहे बिचहाए, मुद्दा अनका है अपने aalam-e-taqrir का। मक्ता अर्ज किया है, बस की हूँ गालिब असीरी में भी आतिश ज़ेरे पा, मुए आतिश दीदा है हल्का मेरी जंजीर का। So this is the opening ghazal of Diwan-e-Ghalib and जो उसका पहला शेर है वही इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स, कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एंड बेहतरीन है कि इसी के बारे में लोगों ने इतना लिखा है, इतने इंटरप्रिटेशंस हैं, इतने इम्प्रेशंस हैं, बिकॉज द शेर indeed for a simple mind like mine is in a class of its own. So let's get into it. पहला शेर है, नक्श फरियादी है किसकी शोखी-ए-tahrir का, काग़जी है pairahan हर paikar-e-taswir का. Let's get into the background story behind this sher and then we will proceed to the impression. So the sher does capture a bit from an old tradition in Persia, Iran, where if you were somebody with a plea to make, you were supposed to come to the court of the king and plead to him wearing a garment of paper, and your plea supposedly was written on that paper. So you were standing in front of the king almost as an embodiment of your plea. You had nothing on but a garment of paper and your plea was written on it. So that is the tradition and the background story which the sher picks from. So नक्श फरियादी है किसकी शोखी-ए-tahrir का. Now, per tradition of Urdu poetry, जब भी कोई पोएट अपने दीवान को शुरू करते थे तो उनका जो पहला शेर होता था, that was supposed to be an ode to God. It was pledged to the Almighty. And Ghalib does follow in the same tradition. This first sher is an ode to God but with a twist. So Naqsh fariyaadi hai kiski shokhi-e-tahrir ka. Ghalib is saying that ye Naqsh, these symbols, these alphabets, which are part of a plea, who are they pleading to? Who are they pleading to? Kiski shokhi-e-tahrir ka? And here Ghalib accepts the fact, acknowledges the fact, details the fact that Tahrir, the ultimate writing of this universe, is done by God. He is the artist behind it. He is the architect behind it. He is the one who has written this, or planned this, or designed this entire universe, right? And here we as people come to him in this universal plea of grief and pain and disillusionment and struggle and strife. बात जो काबिले गौर है इस लाइन में वो है शोखी. Shokhi by translation means chanchalta, mischievousness, nonchalance, cheekiness. A very careless attitude. That's not something you would use in context to God, the ultimate creator, the ultimate painter, the ultimate writer of this universal script. But Ghalib does. Ghalib does. It almost seems Ghalib is saying, why, and actually who, kiski, why and who went ahead and sketched out this universe with such nonchalance, carelessness, light-heartedness. Why did they not put a little more thought in it? Why were they not a little more careful? Why were they not a little more serious while they were envisioning this universe? And of course, by extension, he is asking this of God. Why were you so quick and nonchalant and almost careless when you were designing the universe, creating these opportunities, these continuous perpetual opportunities for grief and pain and struggle? So Ghalib here is explaining and detailing how once we are born, life is a perpetual endless struggle. For him it was, for sure. And he's capturing that in this sher, that had God put a little more thought into his planning, into his creation, probably he would have realized all these loopholes where, opportunities are created for people to get stuck into this never-ending cycle of grief and pain and struggle. So, yes, in the first line, he acknowledges, as per the tradition, the omnipotence, the omnipresence of God, the almighty power of God, where only he is the one who can draw a picture or paint a canvas this wide and this huge, right, called universe. But he quietly slips in a little complaint that if you were to ask me, God, you could have probably been a little more serious while you were doing this. You could have been a little more careful while doing this. All these loopholes that you have left, they have become almost whirlpools in which we get sucked. Whirlpools of grief and struggle and strife. So he pays his homage to God, but not without questioning in an accusing way, or accusingly questioning him, however you want to understand it, not without doing that. And that again speaks to Ghalib's progressive and futuristic thinking. Ghalib would not accept a tradition or a fact just cause you wrapped it in a packaging of religion or culture or tradition or society norms. That way he was very wise. He questioned. He was very conscious of his responsibility to himself to check and cross-check everything. You could not expect him to accept anything just because you have presented it to him under the banner of religion or politics or culture or society or tradition. He would question it. He might accept it afterwards. He might not get an answer to his question, but he would do his analysis, do his cross-checking. And that of course is a sign of a very wise, alert, intelligent human being. Amazing. And in the second line, so in the first line, he has paid his homage to God, accepting the fact that he is the universal artist who has created this canvas on which we are mere characters, artifacts, right? We have found a place on this canvas per his plan. In the second line, he goes on to detail the fleeting existence we as Naqsh or artifacts have. So, kaaghzi hai pairahan har paikar-e-taswir ka. So he says that in this universal plea, which we all people from this world are sending up to you, God, against this universe that you have created for us, full of grief and struggle and pain, हमारा कोई वजूद नहीं है. कागजी है पैरहन. हम तो कागज के कपड़े पहने खड़े हैं. कागज हमारा एग्जिस्टेंस है, राइट? कागजी है पैरहन हर paikar-e-taswir का. Paper itself is a very fragile, friable thing, and anything written on paper is equally fragile and friable. One drop of water and both the alphabet or the writing and the paper, well, they will just dissolve. A little pressure and it will tear off. So Ghalib has used paper to explain or capture the fragility, the fleeting moment of existence we have been given in this world, right? In the second line, almost making us insignificant. Our significance is but just for a moment, right? We are just one little alphabet. If we exist, we are just a little tiny bit of this big universe. And then, of course, it is with such a small existence, we also come with this fragility. It is easy to destroy us. We are here and we are not. सो ब्यूटीफुल है पहला शेर. ऑफ कोर्स लोगों ने इसमें बहुत सारे इम्प्रेशंस, बहुत सारी तकरीरें, बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशंस एंड कॉम्प्लेक्सेस ढूंढे हैं और डिटेल किए हैं. बट फॉर मी इट इज opening with a pomp. I mean, Ghalib has, in the first share itself, he leaves no room for doubt on his caliber. In his first share itself, he is calling out the powers to be, starting with God. The precedent is set. The precedent is set. You are all powerful. I am all fragile and insignificant. But that doesn't take away my ability to call you out on things, to question things, to complain, right? I will question things, and I will, wherever I think I have been shortchanged, wherever I think there is an unfairness, wherever I think there is room for improvement, I'm going to highlight it. Moving on to the second share. kav-sakht-jaani hai-tanhaai na puchh. subh karna shaam ka, lana hai juu-e-shir ka. So there's a background story to this share also. Let's get into the story first. The story Shri Farhad ki hai, The Eternal Lovers. The story goes that Shireen was Prince Khusro's wife, queen, and Farhad one day saw her and fell in love with her completely. And from then onwards, Farhad's love, passion, obsession for Shireen just kept increasing. And there came a time when this became public knowledge. Ishq aur mushk chupaye nahi chupte hain. So it could not stay hidden any longer, and it became public knowledge, and of course it reached the king. And instead of being angry, the king was very amused by the fact that this simple mason, this common man whose job is to cut and break stones all day to earn his living, has fallen in love with my queen, and either by his own effort or by his inability to stop it, has made the fact public. So the king decided to invite Farhad to his court and give him an opportunity to explain to him. And of course, Farhad, true to his passion and love for the queen, told the king that he loves the queen and wants to be with her. So the king, to mock Farhad, told him that he will give him a task to do. And if Farhad can do that task, he can have the queen. And what was the task? The task was, in the kingdom there was a huge mountain. Huge, daunting mountain. And presumably behind that mountain was a river of milk. And the king told Farhad that if you can, you're a mason, you're an expert at breaking stones, if you can cut a channel in this mountain so that the river of milk behind it can flow through the mountain and make its way to the palace, where the queen can take that milk and have a bath in it, I will give the queen to you. Now, listening to the task, it is pretty clear that the king was just being funny. He was being funny, he was humiliating Farhad, he was playing with Farhad, right? What kind of a task is this? With his little axe, he's supposed to do this. And of course, Farhad immediately turned around and headed towards the mountain. And it is said that such was his passion and obsession and love for the queen that in approximately 2 to 3 years of continuous chipping at that mountain with his little axe, with his own 2 hands, Farhad created a passage. He did create a passage. How much would he have chipped at that mountain? Sorry. Is unimaginable. But he managed to create that passage and was almost close to completing it, wherein the river could flow through it. And that is when the king came to know that this task is almost done. And of course the king was perplexed. He knew he would have to keep his promise. So he tricked Farhad by sending an elderly woman to him with the false news that Shri has died. So this old woman comes to Farhad. Farhad is anyway, for 2 to 3 years, he has been consistently, without stopping, chipping at this mountain for, one can only imagine his state of mind, right? And this woman came to him and convincingly told him that Shri had died. And as soon as he heard that news, he was so distraught that he took his axe and he struck his head, splitting it into 2 and dying then and there. In the background, the story evolves that the queen, of course, had listened to all the tales of this lover who was crazy about her and now for the past 2-3 years had been chipping at this mountain to create a passage wherein milk could flow to her and she could bathe in it. And she also fell in love with Farhad. She also started reciprocating those feelings. She also started feeling passion and love towards Farhad. So when she came to know that Farhad was tricked with this incorrect news and immediately took his life, she ran to that place, took that axe and struck herself and died too. And hence the love story and the lovers were immortalized. So that is the background story of how Farhad's story is the epitome of how a lover who is passionate and dedicated with consistent effort will and can make the impossible possible. Farhad's story is symbolic of that. And that's why Ghalib uses it in this sher. Now coming back to the sher. Kav-e-sakht-jaani hai-tanhaai na puchh. Kav is this insistent pounding, right? Insistent pounding. Just like Farhad would have chipped, clawed at that mountain, bit by bit, again and again, again and again. So Ghalib is saying, उसी की तरह फरहाद की तरह ही मैं भी consistently, bit by bit, I claw my way through जानी hai-tanhaai na puchh, through this night of loneliness and separation. Ghalib says, do not ask me how I claw myself bit by bit, second by second, minute by minute, through these nights of separation from my beloved and loneliness. Subh karna shaam ka, lana hai juu-e-shir ka. In the second line he says, subh karna shaam ka. Once the night has fallen, to have the morning come, that act requires the effort Farhad required to bring the river of milk from that mountain, through that mountain. So Ghalib is just, he's not equating his effort to Farhad. He is using Farhad's effort as a baseline. He's using Farhad's effort as a baseline. Farhad ko to sirf ek baar karna pada. He only had to do it once. Break this huge mountain bit by bit, and and get that river of milk through it. Ghalib says, I have to perform this task every night. The night does not pass. The night does not pass. Because of the separation and the loneliness, the night weighs on my heart as heavily as that mountain. And all through the night, I have to chip at that mountain bit by bit, to lighten the burden of my heart. And then comes morning, and the world starts all over again. चहल पहल होती है, लोग आसपास होते हैं, दिल बहल जाता है, distractions, whatever, रोजमर्रा की चीजें होने लगती हैं, and I get distracted. दिन तो गुजर जाता है, and then again comes this night. So according to Ghalib, what Farhad did once, he has to do every night. He has to do every night. That is Ghalib's way of quantifying the grief and the pain he has to go through every night while he's separated from his beloved and lonely. Let's move on to the next share. जज्बा-ए-बे-इख्तियार-ए-शौक देखा चाहिए, sina-e-shamshir से बाहर है दम शमशीर का. So, जज्बा-ए-बे-इख्तियार-ए-शौक देखा चाहिए. Ghalib is talking about his emotions. Be-ikhtiyaar. Ikhtiyaar is control, be-ikhtiyaar, uncontrollable. According to Ghalib, the emotions, the passion, the love that I have for my beloved is uncontrollable now. I have no control over it. I have no control over it, and it's out on display. Dekha chahiye. Dekha chahiye matlab everybody can see it. Usually, how we normal humans would probably operate is, दिल की बात दिल में ही रहेगी ना, कितनी भी intense हो दिल में ही रहेगी. But जब बात हद से गुजर जाती है, जब बात actually intense हो जाती है, तो फिर उसको आप छुपा नहीं सकते. That is where probably lies the courage of loving, right? आप उसको फिर छुपा नहीं सकते. फिर वो सबको पता चलती है. It is on display. Everybody can see it. Ishq aur mushk chupaye nahi chupte. You cannot hide it. So Ghalib is saying that Ghalib is saying that my uncontrollable desires, my uncontrollable love, which is running amok, right? I do not have any control on it. It's out on display. So, jazbaa-e-be-ikhtiyaar-e-shauq dekha chahiye, sina-e-shamshir se baahar hai daam-e-shanidan ka. Ab is line ko, to me it comes in 2-3 ways. Let's talk about the most obvious one, right? So, like I said, आप किसी को प्यार करते हैं, you have feelings for someone. Those feelings are supposed to stay in your heart. They are your secret and they will stay in your heart. But there comes a time when these feelings get so intense, these feelings get so, they get a mind of their own, right? You cannot control them. And they come out. They'll be shown on your face, they will reflect in your voice, they will reflect in your expression, they will reflect in your actions, right? So Ghalib is saying it is almost like sina-e-shamshir. Shamshir is talwar. Sina-e-shamshir se baahar hai daam-e-shamshir ka. So talwar, the sword is always supposed to be in its sheath. तलवार हमेशा अपनी म्यान में रहती है. तलवार का स्ट्रेंथ उसकी धार है, बट उसको आपको म्यान में रखना है. वही तलवार का सीक्रेट भी है. So the edge of the sword is its strength and probably its fiercely guarded secret also, right? And it should always be in its sheath unless you want to use it. So Ghalib is saying that my emotions, which are my guarded secret, which are my guarded strength, if you may, have come out, just like a sword would come out of its sheath. These emotions have come out of their own accord from the sheath, like a sword. And now everybody can see the sword, everybody can see the edge of that sword. And by edge, the edge is, so dam के दो मतलब हैं. Dam as in what is inside the heart has come out. So sure, the expressions and feelings have come out, but also inside your heart is your life, your breath. So Ghalib is almost saying that दिल से बाहर आ गई ये जान. एक तरफ वो कह रहे हैं और फिर वही तलवार अपनी म्यान से बाहर आ गई है. जो चीज़ अपनी जगह पे होनी चाहिए थी, बंद, सीक्रेट, गार्डेड, सेफ, वो खुल के बाहर आ गई है. And once the sword is out of its sheath, we all know there is only one thing it's gonna do: cut. That's why it is always supposed to be in the sheath, because once it's out of sheath, it has a purpose which it has to fulfill. It will cut. So almost ऐसा लगता है कि गालिब कह रहे हैं that my feelings and emotions that have come out and are now on public display are almost tantalizing, tempting the beloved to chop them down, cut them short. And by extension, one would think probably that's what Ghalib wants, because it is clear that his emotions and love will not be reciprocated, right? It will not be reciprocated by his beloved. So probably he is okay for his emotions to play with danger and fire like that and be chopped down. But interesting है. Your long guarded secret is out for everybody to see. Okay. Moving on to the next share. aagahi daam-e-shanidan जिस कदर चाहे बिचहाए, मुद्दा अनका है अपने aalam-e-taqrir का. ये पहली गजल है उनके दीवान की. एंड इसी गजल में गालिब ने अपना कॉन्फिडेंस इन हिज कैलिबर दिखा दिया. ही हैज डिक्लेयर्ड in the first ghazal itself the confidence he has in his caliber, and the confidence he has that he is untouchable as far as his caliber goes. aagahi aagaha से word लिया गया है. aagha meaning aware, alert, knowledgeable, informed, right? So aagahi basically एक collective की बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर. The collective of the so-called intellectuals, literary geniuses, scholars, poets, learned people, intelligent people, aware people, alert people. ये जो so-called crème de la crème of the society, जो कि अपने आप को above the ordinary man मानते हैं in terms of intellectual abilities, literary abilities. गालिब उनको, he is talking about them. He is talking about them. aagahi daam-e-shanidan, daam, jaal, a net to trap. Shanidan, hearing. By extension, ear. So he's saying that this collective of literary elites can lay as big, as extensive a net to trap. They can lay as extensive a net as they want to trap. जिस कदर चाहे बिछाए. They can lay it however they want it. They can lay it in any contraption they want. But mudda anka hai. So anka, there's another background story about it. Anka is this bird, elusive bird, almost something akin to the unicorn, right? You've heard about it, but nobody has seen it. Nobody has caught it. People are in this perpetual state of, does it even exist? Does it even exist? And they have pictures, they have stories which say that it exists, but since nobody has ever been able to catch it or see it, they cannot verify. Sorry about this cough. मुआ अनका है अपने आलम-ए-तकरीर का. He's saying अपने आलम-ए-तकरीर, अपने mind, आलम-ए-तकरीर, आलम is world, तकरीर writing, my world of writings, my world of poetry. मुआ अनका है अपने आलम-ए-तकरीर का. मुआ is the objective, मुद्दा अनका है. So basically objective, essence, summary, understanding. So the understanding, the meaning, the essence is like anka of my world of writings. अनका के लिए कहा जाता था कि पहली बात तो आप उसको देख ही नहीं सकते थे उस बर्ड को. You could not see that bird, you could not trap that bird, and if ever by some chance you came close to the bird and tried to touch it, the bird just used to dissolve in thin air. Just dissolve in thin air. So Ghalib is saying this collective of literary elites can try and cast their net of hearing and so-called understanding and so-called interpretation as much as they want. They can cast as elaborate a net as they want, but they will not be able to grasp the essence of my writings in totality, because that essence is elusive. So it's an open challenge. It's an open challenge in the first ghazal. Open challenge in the first ghazal that the confidence I have in my caliber is such that I can tell you in the first ghazal itself that you will not be able to grasp the meaning of my writings, no matter how much you try, no matter how much you try to use your intelligence and powers of interpretation and analysis, you will not be able to do it. Last sher, Makta. बस की हूँ गालिब असीरी में भी आतिश ज़ेरे पा, मुआए आतिश दीदा है हल्का मेरी जंजीर का. प्यारा शेर है. बस के हूँ गालिब असीरी. Asiri is imprisonment. Now this can be actual physical imprisonment, because पुराने ज़माने में ये ट्रेडिशन था कि lovers who would fall in love with someone and express it and express the desire to be with them. Sorry. Very conveniently, they were categorized as crazy and thrown in a prison or an asylum. This was the society's way of dealing with someone, loving someone, which clashes with the so-called society structure, right? So एक पैटर्न था, आप उस पैटर्न को फॉलो करो, एंड उस पैटर्न के बाहर आप किसी से प्यार नहीं कर सकते, किसी से शादी नहीं कर सकते, किसी के साथ रह नहीं सकते, बिकॉज वो जो सोसाइटी के ठेकेदार थे उनका वो कन्वीनियंट हायरार्की फिर डिसरप्ट हो जाता था, है ना. तो वैसा इम्प्रिजनमेंट. एंड दूसरा सिंबॉलिक इम्प्रिजनमेंट, वेयर इन गालिब को एक किस्म से सबड्यू करना, एक किस्म से उसको दबाना, उसके एक्सप्रेशन को, उसके टैलेंट को, उसकी एबिलिटीज को, उसको अपॉर्चुनिटीज जो थी टू बी इन फ्रंट ऑफ द किंग, टू बी इन द रॉयल कोर्ट, उन अपॉर्चुनिटीज को सैबोटाज करना. सो सिंबॉलिकली, मेटाफोरिकली उसको इम्प्रिजन करना, उसको चेन करना, उसको रिस्ट्रिक्ट करना. सो however you want to take it, but Ghalib in this sher says that these people who imprisoned me, right, they imprisoned me with the objective that they will curb my passion and expression. They will put a stop to it. Because now that I am imprisoned, how will I do it, right? You have imprisoned me, not only my body, but my heart, my mind, my soul. ऐसा इनने सोचा था. But बस के हूँ गालिब असीरी में भी आतिश ज़ेरे पा. But here I am, imprisoned with this fire burning beneath my feet. The fire of passion, the fire of expression. Now this passion can be for the beloved, it can be for his writings, it can be for his vision, his desires, justice, whatever. But the passion, the zest, they could not kill that. And that zest burned like fire under his feet. And you can just imagine, I mean, Ghalib was very accurate in technicality. Though there was so much intuition and emotion in what he wrote, he did not mess up the technical details, right? So, पैर के नीचे अगर आग लगी हुई है, if you have fire under your feet, you are not going to stand still. You'll be in this constant motion, right? So Ghalib is saying these people wanted to chalk block me, right? They wanted to make me still. They wanted to stop me in my tracks. And here, even in the prison, I have this fire burning under my feet, which keeps me in this constant motion. The impatience. They cannot curb my desire, my impatience, probably to reunite with his beloved, or at least be out where he can see his beloved and, hear about her and things like that. Or be out where he can then once again freely express and write and attend mushairas and things like that. And then in the second line he says, Muay atish dida. Muay atish dida. Muay atish dida means aag mein jhulsa hua baal. So as we know, the hair, if it burns, it will turn into smoke and ash. But when it is singed, it takes this curly quality, right? And Ghalib is referring to that. Look at the technicality. He is referring to that curly quality of a singed hair and comparing it to the shackles or the links in the chains and shackles around his feet. So he's saying, because of this continuous fire under my feet, these shackles and chains have been consistently burning in that fire along with me. And now they have become like singed hair around my feet. And by extension, what he's trying to say is they are of no use anymore. Because as we know, singed hair is probably the most friable, most fragile thing. You touch it and it will just crumble. So Ghalib is saying that you put me in prison, but you forgot that the fire and the passion which I carry inside me cannot be snuffed out just by putting me into a prison or subduing me or undermining my efforts, right? The passion becomes even more intense. You have intensified this fire. This fire burns with even more intensity, so much so that it has burned the shackles around my feet and made them as fragile as singed hair. And if you take a moment to think about the symbolic meaning of this, वो दिमाग में वो उनका शेर आता है, मुश्किलें मुझ पे पड़ी इतनी की आसान हो गई. इतना ज्यादा वो दूसरा गाना भी एक याद आ रहा है, जुर्म उल्फत की हमें लोग सजा देते हैं, कितने नादान हैं शोलों को हवा देते हैं. So these people who were trying to subdue the fire of expression and passion in him inadvertently, accidentally, actually intensified it. Intensified it so much that जो shackles थोड़ी बहुती थीं बची गालिब के दिमाग में, या जो गालिब के आसपास थोड़ी बहुती लिमिटेशंस थी, वो भी खत्म हो गई. जो थोड़ा बहुत, and right now I'm speaking metaphorically, not as an actual prison, but I'm just saying that there might have been some limitations, there might have been some hesitations on Ghalib's behalf. कुछ चीजें उन्होंने कभी ट्राई नहीं की होंगी, कभी अटेम्प्ट नहीं की होंगी. There were things which he thought probably were best left unchallenged. Probably, right? वो झिझक भी खत्म कर दी. अब तो कोई shackles है ही नहीं. He is free. In their effort to imprison him, they have freed him completely. That's the way this sher comes across to me. That's the impression that speaks to me. बहुत खूबसूरत शेर है कि मतलब वो आग में डाला तो क्योंकि सोना थे कुंदन बन के निकले, कुछ और होते तो पिघल जाते, खत्म हो जाते, निस्तो नाबूद हो जाते, बट सोना थे तो गलती से कुछ और समझ के आग में डाल दिया कि ये आग इन्हें खत्म कर देगी, बट आउट ही कम्स इवन बेटर, इवन शाइनियर, इवन स्ट्रॉन्गर. Beautiful है. Amazing. So that brings us to the end of this first ghazal. It was a pleasure to share my impression with you, and yes, I look forward to coming back for the second ghazal from Diwan-e-Ghalib. And this one is a very short one. So, yeah, एक शेर की गजल है. So look forward to discussing and detailing this with you in the next episode. Well, thank you for tuning in, and till we talk again, love and light, everyone. Thanks for watching.